Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Creative Studio. My name is Christopher Lee. I am a concept artist. I worked in the creative industry for about 10 years now with various companies such as Walt Disney Imagineering and Universal Studios Creative. And I'm here today with my good friend, Michael Welker. Say hello, Michael.
Hello, everybody. My name is Michael Welker. I'm a software developer, writer, and semi-retired creative producer from the theme park industry, where I worked with Chris on a bunch of different, really big projects. But a little while ago, Chris and I found ourselves kind of in between big projects and said, "Hey, why don't we do a creative project together, just the two of us? Something that we can do together." And took us a while to figure out what that would be. We kind of settled on learning how to make a video game. That's something neither of us have ever done before, but it seemed interesting. Um, Boy, did we bite off a lot, but we're chewing through it, making it happen. Uh, but along the way, we decided, hey, why don't we? Because Chris and I had been meeting twice a week to do these design sessions and check in with each other and share our work. We said, hey, why don't we stream this, make it public, and give other people a window into our creative process? And hopefully meet some like-minded creative folks along the way. Thus, the Creative Tavern came
Mm.
about. And to tell you more about that, I'm handing it back to Chris.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, so the Creative Timer was created just for people like myself, Michael, and you, anyone, and also anyone who is creative. And people such as Captain Blue Blue and Coley Butt in this chat right now, they are some of the amazing people that we have met so far on this channel slash platform. And we are very, very happy to have them here. And if you are creative, if you're creative, it doesn't have to be, drawing. I don't want people saying, "Oh, it's creative, therefore it's drawing." No, it's about music, it's about writing, it's about modeling, it's about sculpting, embroidering even, and yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that later too, because one of our viewers, he does embroidering
Cool.
now. It's pretty awesome. And so yes, this platform is for you. So if you want, feel free to join our Discord and share and post your stuff so that we can all go on this creative journey together. Michael, did I miss anything?
No, well said.
Okay, sweet, sweet, sweet. And because today is August 17th, it is a Wednesday. So Wednesday is Michael's Day, and we're going to hand it over to Michael. And Michael is going to share with us some of the things that he's been doing for the past week. And I haven't seen it yet, so I shall be schooled. All right.
I hopefully have some really cool stuff to show today. Before I jump into it, a quick table of contents, if you will, a look at what we're going to do today. First, I'm going to do a recap of last week. Then I'm going to go through the stuff that I've updated in the game this week. And by the way, in case anybody is new here, Chris and I have split up the workload on making this rail shooter video game. Chris does the art, I do the programming and the design, and then we kind of marry up our efforts and dump them all into the game together, and then hopefully out the other end of this collaboration will pop a wonderful PC game
Mm,
that you lovely folks can download in the future.
yeah.
Um, so I've got that update for you. I have a couple of sort of quick presentations. One is about a computer programming concept that I spent a lot of the week working on, but then I thought this is not really going to play very well in the stream. So let me just make like a little visual aid that I think will be much more interesting, educational, and will convey like what Michael spent many hours this week working on that doesn't look like he didn't really did anything. But there are a lot of other things that have a lot of visual spectacle that you like.
Mm,
And then finally, at the end of all of that, once we're done with work, we'll play a little tavern trivia
yeah.
tonight. 5 questions for you, and tonight's theme is the request was Jane Austen, um, but I'm only really familiar with Pride and Prejudice, so that's what it's about. So if you've seen that movie or you're a big fan, stay tuned for Tavern Trivia. And if you're not a big fan or you're not familiar with that movie, if you know some of the stars, like if you know who Keira Knightley is,
Oh, I
you
know.
might do pretty good.
I know who she is.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
stay tuned for that.
yeah.
Alrighty, let's jump into it. We will start with where we were last week. I'll give you a quick little recap, and then I will load in the new stuff. So last week, there were two big things that I kind of worked on. One of them was in the week before last week. There was this big problem with the player's ship kind of doing this jittering motion where it would kind of wiggle around on screen, and it looked really distracting and awful. So I basically spent almost the whole week solving that problem, and it was a big thing and a deal. If you want the details about that, check out the VOD from a week ago. But for now, in what we're seeing on screen right now, you can kind of see this is my final outcome where I was able to get this like very smooth animation going. So now the ship doesn't wiggle at all. It flies very smoothly, even at very high speeds, which the speed that it's going here is actually quite a bit fast. Like it picks up speed right there. And this is moving quite a bit faster than it usually will be moving in the game, with the exception of a couple of the like really big outdoor spaces. And the other thing that's interesting to note about this is if I kind of zoom out in the editor here, what's happening is you've got this rail, this green rail that the ship is on, and actually the rail that the ship is currently on is, I think it's no, actually I don't think I've got it set to switch. That's not what I want. Where is the the gate? Switch to rail 1. So it's switching to that one, and it's on this one. Yeah, okay, so it is switching rails. So if this gate right here, which is this thing, basically what this is doing, and I've got these gates set up to, when the player passes through, in the final game, they're going to be totally invisible. I'm leaving them visible right now. That way, you guys can see like when the ship's actually passing through, it's triggering some code to do something. But basically, when the ship passes through these gates, we can do all kinds of stuff. We can change the ship's speed. We can tell the ship, hey, turn around and start flying backwards. We can spawn in enemies. And then the other thing that we can do that was a real big pain in the butt to figure out, which kind of caused all those other problems, was changing rails. So currently at the beginning of this level, the ship is on this one rail, and then when it passes through the gate here, it's actually switching to this other rail.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And so if I hit pull, actually, what I'll do, I'm going to disable this gate, and then you'll see when I click on this, so I'm spending a lot more time doing a recap from last week than I probably should. I think it's, okay, yeah. So the ship you can see is flying on rail 0. He's kind of like just cruising around on this loop, right?
Yeah.
What we can do, if we go to this gate, re-enable it, and instead say that I want the player to switch to rail 2, which is actually this one up here. Now when I hit play, you're going to see the ship, instead of following along down here, and it goes really fast because I've got the speed of the gate set to accelerate. Let's just leave that at, like, I guess 10. And switch back to this. But anyway, you can see the ship smoothly changes from one rail to the other, which was really, really hard to achieve. Took a long time to figure that out without having like this jittery jumping kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was one big thing from last week. And then the other thing, let's not save that, was I made this scene, which was basically just this, like what I'm calling the attack lab. Because I needed to figure out a way to start programming in the attack behaviors of the enemies. Because up to this point, they'd basically just been static or either like moving along the rail in front of the player, but not really doing anything interesting. And I had come up with a series of like sort of attack pattern ideas, which actually, let me pull that up to kind of show you guys what I'm talking about.
Hey, Michael, that's a really nice color pattern there, or color scheme there. You got.
Oh, you like that, huh?
I do like that. It's very
Call that the Chris special.
Yeah.
So I had kind of laid out this in order to wrap my brain around the sort of design of how the individual interactions with the enemies would go. I created this diagram, which is basically, imagine this is like a top-down view. You're looking at the player ship here. and this sort of like gray cone out in front of us, like the player's cone of vision. That's kind of like where the player can shoot and see. And each one of these grid lines kind of marks like a distance away from the player. So things that are very far would be way up here at the top. Things that are really close to the player would be down here next to the player. And then what I did from there is I kind of started mapping out different sort of attack patterns that the enemies would do. So like in this case, I'm calling these guys like the leapfroggers. They would spawn in behind the player and then zoom around in front of the player and then kind of like try to attack the player from there.
Mm-hmm.
These guys, the chargers, would spawn like out in the distance, and then they would charge towards the player. These guys would kind of like sneak in from the side, and so on and so forth. I've got a whole bunch of different ones in here that I kind of went over in an earlier episode. But basically, this was the idea behind creating these sort of like attack patterns, and I needed to figure out a way to actually start like programming those in because those are going to be like the central building block to making the game is these moment by moment interactions with a wave of enemies would appear and you need to deal with it, and then once you cleared it you would move further through the level and then another wave would appear and maybe it would be a little bit different or maybe there'd be a twist on it or so on and so forth because that's the way real shooters work. um, so I started trying to figure out how to do that here, and basically what I did was I made this level with like a series of these gates, and when we go through each one of these gates I wanted to spawn in enemies. And so if I hit play, we'll see how that works. As I pass through this gate, you're going to see a couple of the drones fly in from the back, and they kind of take up these positions here. That gate spawns 3 more, and so on and so forth. We keep getting these drones spawning in. And so this was cool. This was helpful. The one thing that you're going to notice though is that a lot of these drones are kind of like overlapping with each other, and some of them are also like appearing at the top of the screen or in places where they're kind of like hiding behind some of the HUD and things like that. And there's also like a problem with the targeting reticles. Like some of the yellow targets actually appear, some of them don't.
Right.
That's a weird bug that I need to fix, and it's as of this week I still haven't fixed it, so I kind of just disabled it. But anyway, so we have these kind of like drones sort of flying in, and this was the only behavior that I had programmed for last week, and it was fine. But it really needed to be a bit more functional than this because a couple of the problems were one, in order to prevent the drones from colliding with the player, I push all of them outside of like this range of where the player usually is in the middle of the screen, kind of like the default position for the player. But that means that like where I'm aiming right now, there'll never be a drone right there, which kind of sucks. If that's where the player is going to be most of the time, sometimes we're going to want to put something right there in front of them to shoot. The other problem is that as I had mentioned a second ago, is that sometimes the drones, because their placement is just random, it's like random within a specified kind of grid where I've said like, okay, these are the different sort of positions you can go into. Sometimes they overlap with each other. Like you can see, like these two guys right here are stacked almost right on top of each other. One's like a little bit in front and one's a little bit further in the back, but they're kind of stacked up on top of each other. And so my mission this week was to really refine this system so that way that didn't happen, and also to start programming in some of the other drone behaviors instead of just these sort of leapfroggers, if you will. And so that's what I did.
Nice.
And now I'm going to switch to the new file. So I'm going to need to reload this. Give me a second.
Oh, while you do that, I would like to welcome Killer Cookie. She has arrived.
Cookie!
Hello, Killer Cookie. And Butt
Great
says,
to have you.
"I will still support Team Tavern." Yeah. And
Yeah.
Cookie says, "Hello, everyone." And Captain Blue says, "Ahoy." Yeah. So good to have you guys here.
Yes, it's great to have everybody here. Okay, so I actually need to fix this because this is actually for the 17th, not the 10th. So here's kind of my outline for the things that I updated this week and that hopefully we'll have a chance to talk about. The get thing, maybe if we have time to do that. I wanted to do that last week, didn't get a chance to do it. I might not be able to do it this week either because there's a lot to talk about.
Sure.
So I'm going to save that. But refactoring. In fact, actually, this would be a good time to talk about refactoring because this was the thing that I teased earlier. Was like, oh, this is the thing that Michael spent a whole bunch of time doing, but actually isn't really that interesting or sexy for like streaming purposes. Um, so what I want to do is kind of just explain like, well, what the heck is refactoring and why is it important? So if I switch back here, I've got a little presentation thing, refactoring explained. Okay, you should be able to see that. Great. So basically, when you're doing, and the interesting thing I think is like this is a computer programming term of art, but really I think it can apply significant, like really significant, important ways to creative endeavors too. Because when I heard of this concept in programming, I realized like, oh man, that's a name for this thing that I already do with like writing or drawing or these other creative efforts. Um, and so basically, here's what it is with computer programming, when you want to start writing a program, you start with the blank page, right? And then from there, you start adding some code. And each time you think of a new thing that you want it to do, you want to add a new feature, you want to add a new function, you write some code in there. And then you keep going. You keep adding code and adding more features and adding new functions. And eventually, the code base grows. And while you're doing this, you're kind of just like figuring things out on the fly, like as you go. But it gets to a point where the code becomes kind of big and unmanageable, especially if it's all like in a single file and you've got, you know, this piece of code down here is doing this thing and this other piece of code's doing that thing and this piece of code references like 10 other chunks of code above it. One of the things that is really helpful, especially when you're trying to like look at and understand like, well, what the hell is this code even doing, is to break things up into chunks.
Yeah.
And so you might end up with, kind of like what I was saying, like in this piece of code right here, maybe we've got like this section in blue is these are all kind of like pieces of code that are related to doing one thing. Maybe all of these are dealing with like the player's ship and like, well, what is the player's ship doing? How fast is it moving? What are the shields? And then maybe this other piece of code, like, oh, well, that's kind of related to the enemies. Like, what are the enemies doing, and where's their spawning placement?
Hmm.
And maybe this other section of the code is doing something completely different, like that's tracking stuff in the environment or the game manager or whatever. And so, if you can find a way to like identify all these different pieces and maybe like extract them such that you can take all of those components, all that source code that's all related to the same sort of thing for the enemies, extract that and put it into its own file, then you can kind of like clean up the source code and you can have this file that's like, okay, this is the enemy script.
Yeah.
So when somebody opens it up, okay, great. This is very clear. I can see everything that is related to the enemies here in this one file.
Uh huh.
I don't have to like be combing through all this other stuff. Same sort of thing with like any other things that you can take out of the source code and kind of take that one giant block of code and split it up into its respective pieces. Um, it's really helpful for organizing the project and making it easy to then add additional things. Because now, if I want to add a new feature to the enemy, I don't have to go digging around in the code trying to find like where that stuff is. I know like, oh, it's all here. It's
Yeah.
all in the enemy script.
Right.
Um, and so kind of like the parallel to the creative world, it's like I often find myself doing this when I'm like working on a book or the fiction project is I will often, start with just like writing random conscious stream of consciousness ideas and brainstorming. It's like this big, messy, uh, like brain dump of stuff. But then I can start looking at it and identifying like, okay, here are the things that I want to put in scene one. Here are the things that are actually about characters. Here are the things that are about story, world, and lore. And then I can start splitting those things up into their own different documents that I can then use as sort of like a way to structure the project and my understanding of it. And so anyway, I spent a lot of time this week doing this refactoring process because when I started to get into building the behaviors for the drones, it became apparent very quickly that I thought it was going to be this kind of small, quick, and easy thing, and it ended up being like, oh, this is actually probably going to be the biggest portion of the code for the entire game
Mm.
because there's just so much programming that needs to go into having these different types of drones doing different things. And I needed to organize a way of like, well, you know, each drone is going to share a certain amount of commonality. Like I want them all to have the ability to like fly around and look at the player and have, health points and talk to the game manager. But only some of them are going to, like the missile drone, like he's the only one that's going to need to deal with projectile missiles. And the spider drone is going to need to not move around on a rail, so it's going to be a little bit different. So each thing has got like some things that are similar and some things that are different, which is where that refactoring really helps, because by splitting out the and doing like the refactoring for the enemies, I was able to like clean up the code in a way that I could then build on it. So um there you go. That's my spiel on refactoring and kind of to set the table for what I'm going to show you now.
Nice.
Any questions before I continue?
Not from me, and no one has any questions in the chat. Totoro has arrived. Hello, Totoro.
Totoro, hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome in.
Yeah.
All right. So what I did here for the attack lab, and actually let me double check. Oh yeah. So the first big thing that I did this week was I updated the grid system, which I can actually share that too. Yeah, here we go. Sorry, I'm gonna go back to a diagram because some of this stuff's really hard to show in code. Like I could show you the code, but like I don't know if it's really worthwhile. So what we're seeing on screen right here, this is basically just a visual diagram that I made to kind of figure out, if you imagine you're from the player's perspective, you got the player right in the middle of the screen right there, right here. Imagine that this is the game screen. So you as the player are looking at it, we have our shield bar up here, the player ship is here, and the player ship can kind of, fly around. Um, each one of these little like X, Y coordinates is a position that we can place a drone. And they're spaced out in this way because of the height and the width of each drone necessitates that they need a little bit of room to not kind of all cluster together. And so I'd kind of figured this out in the previous week. But some of the things that I didn't figure out were creating different grids for each one of the distances. So for very near, for near, mid, far, very far. So I did that. I basically wrote this code that once the game starts, the grid manager creates these like 5 or 6 different grids and knows like, okay, I've got all these different spaces in the very far grid is the biggest one because it's far enough away from the camera that the player can see to the very far, like all the way up into this corner here, the player would be able to see, what would that be at, X 32 and Y 56. So this point right here would be 3256. You can't see a drone there when the drone's really close, but when they're really far away, that's okay. So I created like all these different grids that would keep track of how far away they are from the player and where can I place drones in that grid that the player can actually see.
Right.
So worked on that, and click here, back to Unity. And I programmed that in for the gate, and actually there's a whole bunch of gates here, but I've turned them all off. This is basically the same scene as before. I just made it much longer, so I've got like all these gates here that we can trigger a whole bunch of drones in. But this week it was more about programming in different types of behavior. So I created this sort of drone type drop down here, which this is roughly analogous to those patterns that we were looking at before, right? Where we've got like the Chargers, the dive bombers, the leapfroggers, the missile drone, so on and so forth. This is my wish list of everything I'd like to get into the game. I currently only have, I think, about half, maybe a third of these currently programmed. But basically what I can do now is I can just click on this and like, let's click Leapfrog 1 here. And then I can tell the gate like which grid I want to use. Like if I want them to go very far, they'll actually spawn in like really far away. If I click, mid, it'll be in the middle. So if I do mid, and I can also specify how many drones I want. So this is pretty similar to last week. And then the drone path. So if I want the drones to go on a special path, I could actually specify it here. But what I'm gonna do is I've got 2 rails here. I want the player on just a regular rail. So I believe nothing breaks. If I hit play, what's gonna happen is when we fly through this, there you go. So a couple of improvements here. The drones now actually they can fill up the entire grid in front of the player, which I can actually show you if I put this up to like something crazy like 50. There's not 50 slots in the mid grid, so the the grid manager program is smart enough to know when I'm out of space, when I've already filled up all the positions in the grid, I'm not going to send more drones into it,
Mm-hmm.
which was a problem before. And now I've got this sort of like check-in, check-out system where when a drone gets spawned in, it checks in with the grid manager and says, "Hey, buddy, I'm alive and I need a spot in the grid." If the grid manager says, "Sure, there's an open spot, you can have this one," it checks it out to that drone. The drone then takes it and goes into that position. And then when a new drone comes in, the grid manager will not assign that position because it's already taken. And if the drone or the grid manager has already given out all the positions, it doesn't assign anymore. It just says, "Hey, sorry, I don't have room for you, buddy." So then that drone just doesn't come into existence, or it doesn't take up that spot. So now, if I hit play with like 50 drones, it will populate and fill in the whole thing. So you
Oh
can see like
man.
we have all of these positions, and those are specifically selected because when the player is all the way to the right or the left, like I can't move any further to the left here,
Yeah.
which means that's basically the limit of where those drones can be, and I can actually still hit them. Because if they went further to the left or to the right,
Right.
it'd actually be out of range. And a little subtle, but you might also notice that all the drones are like tracking the player
Oh
because it's like
yeah.
aiming at them.
Yeah, that's cool.
And the thing that was hard to figure out about this, and it's really subtle, is you'll notice that the drones fly in around the player and then they kind of cluster in. So they like create space for the player while they're flying in, and then they sort of collect into their positions on the grid. So notice when they're flying from behind the player, they're kind of scattered and then they cluster together into the grid formation.
Oh.
So I had to program that in, and the reason that was like important to me is because now, look, I've got this drone right here in the middle, whereas before that wouldn't have been possible. But now I have that drone. I basically tell him like, hey, if you're in the player's position, just fly above or below, and then move into position.
Oh wow.
And so now we've got all these drones here, and I can shoot them and blow them up. Um, and yeah. Oh, by the way, these are Chris's latest and greatest drone assets from that Chris showed us last week. They're all imported into the game now, and so I've been using them and have been adjusting the colors to create different types of drones. So,
Nice.
for example, we've got what I'm calling Leapfrog Level 1 is the ones that we just saw, and I'm not set on the color scheme or any of the sort of like the balance of like HP or anything like that. This is all just me playing around with stuff and trying to get an idea of like, okay, yeah, we're gonna have a different color for this type of drone, a different color for this type of drone, but I'm still trying to figure out what all that should be. But that's the level 1. So those guys are pretty easy to kill. They only have, I think, like 6 HP. But if we go up to level 2 and do the same thing, now you're going to see the drones that come in are going to be red. And these
Nice.
guys actually have a little bit more health. So it's kind of pretty subtle. It's going to look like they're getting blown up about the same speed, but they have about twice as much health as the level 1s. And we've also got level 3. So, and this is the thing that's like super cool to me and is really important is this is as easy as me just changing this drop down menu, and then I get a completely different wave of enemies here. So super important to being able to like build out these levels, because then I can just place like, okay, I want a gate right here that's going to spawn in level 3 leapfroggers. Then once the player kills all those, a little bit down the road, I want another gate. This one's going to spawn in, 10 level 1s or whatever. And so now these guys have quite a bit more health. I got to shoot them a decent amount to blow them up.
Mm.
So that's that. And then just to kind of show you, if I switch this to very far, now what you're going to see, and this might have a bug, but they're going to fly much further into the distance. Boop. And so now they have gone out to the grid that is as far away as it can go. And they're still lining up with like where my crosshair is. So
Mm.
they won't go outside of the range of what the player can shoot at, which is fantastic. However, I found a problem with this. Oh, and the other thing I can do too is if I put this up to something crazy at like 200, you can see they'll completely fill in the grid, and you'll have this like massive wave of drones,
Wow.
just this wall of drones. Um,
Crazy. Captain Blue Balloon asks, so this will be spawning and placing bots dynamically according to difficulty?
uh, yes, potentially according to difficulty, but definitely according to our decisions about game design. Like in this moment, we want it to be this difficult. We want this to be happening. We want you to fight 5 drones here and then 10 drones there. It will also make it easy if and when, because difficulty settings not something we currently have on the docket to actually put into what we're releasing. That is like a nice to have that we would want to do later, and as part of the Kickstarter, that's probably going to be one of the things that's in there. But this system will make it very easy to make that happen, because then when the player selects normal, we can say like, hey, each gate, make sure you're only using level 1 enemies, and then if the player selects the hard difficulty or expert level difficulty, those same gates can receive the message that, hey, the player's playing on expert difficulty, go ahead and bump up your drones to level 3 or whatever it is. So yeah, good question.
Yeah. Thank you, Captain Blue Blue.
One thing that I noticed, or that I didn't realize when I was doing this, that was actually going to be a problem is, so far, this is fine when the player and the drone are on the same rail and they're flying in a straight line. However,
Oh.
yeah, I think you already know where this is going.
Yeah.
If the player is on a rail that moves, like for example, this curvy rail that actually winds around and then way down there at the end, it actually goes up and down.
Oh, I'm interested.
And I have the drone spawn gate to the drone path. Want that to go onto the same rail. Now things get real wacky. Because now those drones are on the rail ahead of the player, which means they're moving on their own, and they can actually get into a position where now I can't actually hit those ones over to the right. And now I can't hit the ones off to the left. So that's a problem. Now there are certainly cases where I want the drones to be doing that,
Yeah.
and not to be always like right in that target area.
Right.
So I want the flexibility to do both. But once this happened, I realized, shit. If I'm on a rail that moves around like this, I need a way to be able to force the drones to stay in front of the player if that's what I want, which I programmed in. So now the drones can do that. If they want to like follow the rail themselves, they can totally do that. But I can also tell the drone gate here, if I revert this, it's going to default to a special rail that I've actually added to the player rig called the drone spawn rail, which if I go down here to the player ship, so here's our player ship, and here is the drone spawn rail. It's basically, it's the same sort of rail as we've been using, but this one is attached to the ship. So if I hit play and then come back here, you'll see that that rail moves with the player, and as the player turns, that rail is turning, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you can see the drones are on that rail. So if we go into the game, the drones stay perfectly locked with the player. Looks a little weird at that like far range, but if we do something like this, we go to mid and drop that down to like, let's just say 3. Now I've got these 3 drones who are in line with the player. They are not on their own rail. They're on that special rail that's attached to the player rig that goes right out directly out in front of them. So this will ensure that the player will always be able to shoot these guys, that they'll never go outside of that
Yeah.
cone of range. So there you go. A couple of the adjustments that I've made there. Some other things that I'll show y'all are, I also created, oh yeah, this evasive one. I'm going to set that at 1 to start with. So what this does is basically it's the same sort of thing, and hopefully it's not broken. It could be. But now what this guy does is he dynamically moves between the open grid positions.
Yeah,
So he is
nice.
kind of dodging around, and then you have to like, I gotta try to
Yeah,
hit him.
yeah.
Yeah, gotcha, you little bastard.
That's cool. I like that. That's the best one I like so far.
And what else I can do is I can add in multiple evasive drones. And the cool thing is with that check-in, check-out system that I talked about, they will not overlap with each other. Like they'll not go to the same position
Uh-huh.
because they know that like, oh, there's no drone in that position, so I can go there. I mean, they are still kind of like flying over each other, which is something I could try to figure out how to solve, but that is a much more difficult problem than just making sure that they never land in the same place.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the other thing that's cool too is if I fill this up with like so many drones that they don't have anywhere to go, these guys aren't going to move at all. But as soon as I start shooting them, then they'll start because now they've got
Oh, right.
room to
Room.
like
Right.
uh, evade and move around.
Yeah.
So, and then with these guys, I gave them a lot less health because they're going to be like so difficult to hit. Um, but anyway, balance stuff. That's something that we can kind of mess with as we go, and we feel like maybe they need more health, or maybe they need to move faster, or maybe their movement needs to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So that's those guys. I also created what's the next one that's probably worth looking at? We'll look at the missile drone. So I'll start with 3 and bring them out into the mid. So what these guys do is they're going to fly in from the sides, and then once they get into position, they kind of spin around, and then they start shooting
Oh
missiles. And
shit.
when the missiles hit the player, you can see that our shields are taking damage up here. There's like this explosion that's happening. And if the shields get completely depleted, which these guys aren't doing quite enough damage here. Oh, yep, there you go. Now you can see our health. I added this like health bar system,
Yeah.
which is very similar to Halo, where if your shields are gone and you continue to take damage, you will lose health.
Right.
But if you don't take damage, then your shield will eventually come back. And I can actually dodge as the player. So if I see these things coming, I could, try to like move around. I'm like, oh, geez, let me get out of the way here. And I gave these missile bots a lot of health, so you really have to just wail on them to blow them up. There we go. Got that one. Get this guy, and then like try to dodge when they're firing. Get out of the way there. Man, maybe I gave these guys too much health. They're really hard to kill. There we
I
go.
like that a
Okay,
lot.
got the.
That's really cool.
And then things get real crazy if I go ahead and fill that up, because then they're all firing their missiles at the same time. Oh, and the other thing that I can do too is I can
Oh shit.
change the speed of the missiles and how often they're firing.
Uh-huh.
So if we feel like that's not quite threatening enough, or if we want to do additional, like kind of like what I had done with the leapfrogs, um, with like the level 1, the level 2, the level 3, we could do the same thing with these guys
Yeah.
and just set like level 1. They don't shoot very often, and maybe it doesn't do that much damage, but maybe the level 3 fires a whole bunch. Oh, and one other thing that you'll notice too is that when they fire their missile, it's just coming out of the like eye of the drone.
Yeah.
That I have a solution for, which we'll see a little bit later. I haven't implemented it here yet because it was something that I figured out in a different drone. And then thanks to that refactoring stuff we talked about earlier,
Mm.
I'm going to take that piece of code and put it into these guys and add that functionality. So we'll see that by next week for sure.
I am in love
Um,
with these missile drones, man. Holy cow.
isn't that cool?
That is very cool. Okay, can I say that well, here's the thing. Can you do you have a version of these evasive missile drones that's shooting at us?
Evasive missile drones. No, no, I don't. But I can add that. That should be pretty easy for me to add. I can put it on my to-do list.
Yeah. Well, I'm just curious because what I really love is the whole evasiveness, and I also want to say that in the beginning you showed us that even though the bots were on its own, rail, sometimes they are out of the target area zone, but I really like how that look. I really like how it's like kind of dodging, weaving, and out. Functionality, it doesn't work, but aesthetically, I really love how that looks. So
Yeah,
it's
you're talking. Well, actually, here, let me. I'm gonna make this a little bit more reasonable. Maybe like 5. Um, Yes, I agree. And that's going to be something that we can kind of like play with in terms of uh, why aren't they? Oh, actually, these guys are not moving on that rail. Oh, I know what. Yeah, I didn't program these ones to do that. Um, so I got to work
Yeah,
on that.
no,
But
no
yes,
worries,
I
no
know what
worries.
you're talking about,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's something that we can choose to do because there's definitely going to be certain cases like I'm already thinking about scene 4 where we're kind of like going through the different tunnels and sort of chasing drones around corners and stuff. There we definitely want them to be on the rail itself and not locked to the player.
Right.
But there are going to be other times where the player's focus is really going to be on shooting these things that are in front of you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so yeah, so then we kind of have that trade-off of like, yeah, it looks a little less, it looks a little stiffer. Oh, and the other thing too that this doesn't have any polish right now is these guys are kind of just like stiff. Really is the word. Like when you see them kind of like moving into position, they move in very kind of like robotically,
Sure.
even though they're actually robots.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to add some more randomness and smoothness and maybe some twisting and turning to give them a little bit more of an animated feel. But right now, just to like get the core functionality done, that's the way it looks right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I hope it'll look better later.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, really, really good notes, Chris.
Yeah. Oh, also, Captain Blue Blue says, oh, hold on, let me scroll up. Perhaps missile bots could have a visual tail to give the player an opportunity to know when to dodge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, good point, and that's a great segue into the laser drones. Um, the missile bots need some additional polish like that because I also want to add. And actually, before we move on to the laser drone, there's one more thing that I wanted to say about them. Yes, two more things to say about the missile drone. To in addition to the sort of like visual tell of like, oh, missile got fired. I want to add some special effects that show the like little puff of smoke when it fires, and then maybe
Oh,
like a little
yeah.
smoke trail from the missile
Yeah.
to kind of create those sort of indications. So that is on my polished list to get
Nice.
to eventually.
Nice.
The other thing that I wanted to say is in a previous episode, I had mentioned that I was thinking about changing the size of the missiles so that way when they left the drone, they would actually get a lot bigger. That way the player could shoot them.
Mhm.
Um, in actually executing the functionality, I realized one, programming like that would be a whole bunch of additional programming, and I've already got something here that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Two, what makes our game unique compared to a lot of other rail shooters is that ours is a rail shooter Star Fox hybrid where I can move the ship around. In a lot of the other rail shooter games that we've been using as sort of like the core reference, like the Jurassic Park games and the Star Wars game, in those, because they're from a first person perspective, you can't actually move your vehicle, you can't like dodge. So when there are projectiles coming at you, the only way to stop them is to shoot them. But in our game, you can actually dodge and just fly
Right.
around. So like now I don't get hit because I'm moving and dodging and weaving.
That's cool.
Um, and so I felt like actually I'm not going to program in this for you to shoot the projectiles that because there aren't enough things in the game already to encourage the player to move the ship around.
Right.
And that's one of the things we want to do. Is
Yeah.
this is a game about flying the ship and shooting the targets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So this creates this game dynamic where you can like, okay, I'm gonna make a decision as a player to dodge here or to just stay here for a second and take some hits while I pump this guy full of laser bolts.
Right.
And then, okay, there we go. Now I'm going to dodge a little bit, let my shields recover, and then, kind of pepper these guys while I'm doing it, maybe. So I think it's way more interesting than just shooting them.
Uh, yeah.
And it's much more in line with the sort of game that we're making.
Yeah.
So, um, and
I
the missiles that or sorry, go ahead,
I
Chris.
was gonna say I agree. I think the whole dodging the missiles is like all of a sudden you get a whole bunch of missiles coming right at you. You're like, oh shit, 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 fuck. And then there's something you can do. You have to dodge. You can't like destroy them, right? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And Captain Blue says perhaps level 3 have missiles like Revenant in original Doom. Some spawn as regular missiles, but some spawn as heat-sinking missiles. You have to do
Yeah.
special time dodges to have them miss you and continue to pass you.
Yeah, good reference and good note. My original intent for the missiles was for them to be heat seeking. That's more difficult to program, and also it felt like it was like this feels fair to me to like if you're not moving, they're gonna hit you because basically the way this code works is when the bot decides to shoot, it shoots at the position that the player is right in that frame. And then if the player moves, well, and the bot's already fired the missile, then the missile goes to where the player was.
Yeah.
So yeah, heat-seeking missiles would be really cool, and I'm considering that at some point, especially if we want to do like a sort of mini boss type missile bot. But currently that's on a nice to have list. That maybe we'll get to at some point. But for
Mm,
now, we at least have basic missiles.
that's
But
so
good
cool.
note. Thank you, Captain Blue Blue.
Good
Okay.
good job, Michael. This looks great, man.
Thanks. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Took it was not easy to get some of this stuff together.
I I
Um,
I would imagine.
so much code going
Yeah.
on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Okay, so these guys, kind of related to what Captain Blue had asked something earlier where I was like, oh, that's a perfect segue, and now I can't remember what it was. Uh,
Perhaps the
but
missile
anyway,
boss could give an opportunity to know when
oh,
to
the
dodge.
tell,
Oh yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah. Oh, there you
So with
go.
these laser bots,
Oh
yeah,
shit.
you've got this like little charge up here, and then they
Oh
just shoot
god.
these like heat beams that track the player perfectly, so you
Oh
actually cannot
jeez.
get away.
Oh, what the
You
hell?
have to shoot them as quickly as
Oh
possible, otherwise
jeez.
they will really fuck you up.
Oh, that is not cool. I mean, that's very cool, but that's not cool. Whoa.
Yeah, it's sinister, right?
It's we should name it Zarya. The stupid Zaryas. The
Yeah.
damn Zaryas. Uh
And or go ahead,
oh,
Chris.
I was gonna welcome Aburnt. Aburnt, he says, "Looking
Hey,
good, gents.
Burnt.
So good to have you here, Aburnt."
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome.
Whoa, that is so cool. Captain Blue says it would have to be a larger distance. Those right now, heat sinking would be unfair.
Ah, yes, good point. If
Yeah,
they were a little bit further back, then you'd have a little more time to dodge.
I would say this is unfair, man. But the design of the game is that yeah, you're being drained of energy, so you have to shoot them.
Right.
So that's
I
cool.
wanted and some of this is just like it's easier to program it to behave this way, but I wanted these guys to be a little bit different than the missile drones. Whereas with the missile drones, you kind of have the option. Like if you want to dodge and weave, you don't actually have to shoot them, and then maybe they would eventually go away because they also have a lot of health. These guys, though, I wanted them to be kind of like glass cannons that were really dangerous, and that when they come on screen, you're like, oh, geez, I got to blow these up fast because these things will just completely ruin my day.
Yeah.
Whereas with the missile drones, yeah, that's up to you. And which also creates this interesting dynamic when we put both of them on the screen at the same time,
Oh, jeez.
which I actually haven't done. So I guess we could try that. But then when you've got missile drones and laser drones on the screen at the same time, the laser drones are going to be the absolute priority. You're like, I have to kill those things,
Right.
while dodging the missiles, because those things are just going to, shoot these heat beams at me and completely melt me.
Yeah. Oh, you could program it in a way where, while you are traveling to destroy the laser bots, the missile bots are their missiles is already traveling in that direction, so you're screwed either way. Oh my god, this is going to be cool.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, those are the laser drones, and just for fun, I'll go ahead and put that up to like, actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we do 200 and put them at the very far? I haven't done this. I want to see what this looks like.
Oh
So there's
god.
going to be like 170 of these
Oh
things. Maybe,
god.
no, maybe
Oh
it's not that
god.
much.
What's happening? Oh shit. Whoa.
Oh, oh, nope, it's not making it.
Something's happening.
Yeah, I think the particle effect is not making it to
Oh
the,
no.
well, actually, oh, well,
It's
yeah,
it
it's
it
not getting there.
uh
Oh well.
Oh,
Well, let's see.
wait.
Yeah, mid for sure works. Hadn't tried that before, but apparently there you go. That's a bug that I'm gonna have to fix if we ever want that many of them out there at once. This should work for sure though, because I think I tried. Yeah.
Oh my god. That
Look at
is
that. The shield's gone instantly.
jeez.
Oh,
Oh,
and that's the other thing that's really cool is like in the code, I can specify how much damage these things do and like how often they shoot the beam and how
yeah.
long do they keep the beam on. And
Right.
um, you'll see a little bit of a variety here where like some of them keep their beam on longer than others and some of them, get to the next round of firing before the other ones do.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so all of that is like behind the scenes. We have the ability to change that in code. And I think that's it. I haven't programmed any of the other ones yet, so that's it for those guys. The last thing that I'll show with regard to that, though, is I also did a little bit of work with the spider drone. Spider drone's tough, though. Like, it surprisingly the most complicated of all the drones. We kind of talked a little bit about that last time, and that continues to be the case. So one of the things that I did is, do I need to save this? I don't need to save this. In this scene, I added a little spider drone here. He's kind of just floating in space because I was trying to program in a new thing. And that was I wanted him to be able to track the player and shoot the player. And what I ended up doing is with the missile. So this is that missile that you created, Chris. I
Uh-huh.
just changed it to gray. But basically, what I did with this is I gave it its own box collider, and so it's got like collision physics, and it also has a script called the missile script, which basically allows it to do everything we saw it doing in the previous scene, where when the missile drones are firing, it knows how to target the player and it knows how to blow up when it hits the player. When I did that, I was like, man, this is so much easier, and I have so much more control over this than trying to use this sort of like Unity built-in particle effects system. That why don't I just create like a laser bolt uh,
Ooh.
that kind of has the same thing? And so basically, what I did is I took your missile and I stretched it out, and I
Mm,
gave it this sort of like glowing hit yellow color,
nice.
and gave it a lot of similar gameplay functionality to the missile, and then I added it to this spider drone. And one of the things you're going to see, it's going to be a little bit hard to see. Well, actually, if I move it here, if I bring the camera back here, you'll be able to see it. But I set it up so that way he shoots from his two guns. So if
Nice.
I hit play, you could see he is just firing
Oh
nonstop, and
yeah.
he can track the player, boop, 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 boop. And then
Oh,
if I
cool.
move over here, well, actually, looks like they're. Oh, I know why. Because they're like so long. But you can see that they're actually like
Mm-hmm.
coming out of his
Mm-hmm.
gun
Mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah.
And when they hit the player takes damage.
That's pretty cool, dude.
And I think I've got. This might look a little wacky because I haven't like optimized it. Yeah, the bloom
Ooh.
is going to be a little bit intense.
Oh,
But
that
here's
is
what it looks like
sexy.
with some post processing. So you can see when
Oh, that is
we've got. Yeah,
badass. I love that. Look at
isn't that
that.
cool?
That is so cool.
And then I can shoot the drone. Boom, got him.
Ah, why'd you shoot
Okay.
him? That was so cool.
You was shooting me,
Oh
little
man.
bastard.
Wow, wow. The special effects makes it a huge difference.
Yeah, doesn't that look so much better?
Can
Oh, and the other thing that I did too
uh-huh.
is so for our missile, actually, sorry, for the laser bolt, I created a couple of different textures too, so we could actually like, if you want to
Ooh.
do a blue one, we could do
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
this is what
yeah.
the blue one looks like.
Yeah.
So now he's shooting blue laser bolts, and then I also did a couple other colors. A laser bolt. Basically the Star Wars colors, right?
Yeah.
So now
Yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah.
like TIE fighter style. He's shooting green lasers. And then what do we got? Red, purple. Purple actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, purple always looks cool.
So
Oh,
now he's
that is
got
so
like
cool.
Mace Windu style.
Oh god, that is so cool, man. I think the special effects is going to make the game pop a lot. Like it's going to make it look really
Totally.
cool.
Yeah. The idea is to make the game as fun as possible without all of the sort of like special effects sex appeal.
Yeah.
And then when you add that on top of it, then it just becomes really juicy and like
Yeah.
super fun to play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Wow.
I haven't like settled on any of these things, and I'm certainly welcome to like feedback. Like if there's any of these bolts that you guys have seen that you're like, oh man, the blue one, that one was so good. I'm welcome to that feedback. I was just kind of playing around with stuff, trying to see like what looks cool, but also there should be a little bit of logic about the sort of the
Colors.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like the players, like the color of the player bolts should be unique. No other thing in the game should shoot the same color as the player
Mhm.
does.
Mhm. Mhm.
But then also like the red bolts look cool from the drones, but also they're the same color as the eye, which is maybe we want that to be a special color too. So there, are considerations there. Um,
Ter
but
Terratan says the red is nice. It synergizes with the eye. Hey, Terratan. Good to see you.
there you go.
Captain Blue says blue were cool, but also a lot less visible than the other against space.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh
Agreed.
god, this looks so cool. And I love the fact when you get hit, you light up and you glow like oh god, that looks so good.
Yeah. That's that game feel feedback where you're like, oh, and the other thing that I would like to do that is like a nice to have that I'll try to program in later is while your shield is up, I would like to create an effect that like when you get hit by a laser bolt, you can see the shimmer of this like shield around you.
Yeah, yeah,
And then
yeah.
when the shield is gone, then you'll actually that won't happen and you'll actually hit the ship directly.
Right, 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 right.
Um,
Oh, it's
but
kind
for
of
now,
like Star
this is what I have to do.
Trek. It's like Star
Yeah,
Trek, it has like an outer shield, and once the shield is down, then the actual ship takes damage.
exactly.
That is cool.
Yeah. You could also, if you're a fan of Independence Day, the like when they're shooting the
Oh,
missiles into the enemy
right,
ships
right,
and they're
right.
like hitting that blue invisible outer shield. We'll start with that, and then when that thing gets eaten away,
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
your ship takes damage.
Trivia, you guys. What is the helicopter that what is the name? What is the call sign of the helicopter that tried to make contact with the alien space craft?
Oh man, I don't even know what that is.
If you guys know, I will give you
Bonus
give
trivia
you
points.
yeah, I will give you guys props. Yeah. What is the helicopter's call sign when the one that tried to make communications with the alien spaceship? Let me know if you guys know. But yeah, Michael, awesome job. This looks so freaking cool, dude. I love the glow.
Thanks.
I don't know, man. Oh, God, I love the glow. It looks
It
so
really
cool.
sets it off, right?
It really, really does.
Yeah, because can I turn this off and on in real time? Yep. So that's what it looks like without any of the post
Ah,
processing.
yeah, 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 yeah. Post processing, we want it.
For sure. And that's just basic post processing. Like I really haven't played with it very much or added other extra things. This is just like off the shelf stuff
Yeah.
just to kind of punch it a little bit.
Captain Blue says red does match the eye, but I'm thinking that's why it shouldn't be. I read red as how
Mm,
many bots there are on the screen. Red lasers will muddle the head count.
good note.
Just my opinion. That's what he says.
Great note. I like it and I agree with it. But the other thing we could do too is we could if we like the red lasers, we could always do some kind of variant, like maybe they're a little bit more pink, or maybe they've got some kind of bright white, core mass or
Yeah,
something, to kind of give them a unique visual signature that will not be
yeah,
conflated with the eyes.
right. Oh
But yeah,
God.
that's something we can play with. It's as you can see, it's really easy to just swap out the colors and
hmm
try different stuff, so it's not a big deal.
Since I'm working on scene 5 right now, and because these spider bots are in scene 5, I could just imagine you were flying through the inside of the asteroid, and all these like little it's just bolts of lightning or lights just coming straight at us. I think it's going to be crazy. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. Oh, and the other thing too that we can adjust to is like how fast the bolts go, how much he's shooting. So if I go into the code here, let me open up our spider drone code. Just to give you an idea of like how much code we're talking about here. So for the drones themselves, I've got like all these different things of code here. This is just the base drone code, which is like
Jesus.
150 lines of code.
Oh my gosh.
That's what like all the drones inherit. Then there's also the drone grid. This keeps track of like the placement of the drones. Each drone has a drone rig, which actually doesn't have that much. It used to have a lot more, but then I refactored everything because I realized like I need to be talking to the drone and not the drone rig. And the drone rig is just this like parent object that the drone belongs to in order to like move on the rails appropriately.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Drone spawn gate is decent, yeah, 100, another 150. But then we have to look at the spider guy right in here. So he inherits all those other pieces of code that we looked at, and then he's also got a couple of things that are specific to him. So we've got like this firing interval. So if we wanted to make this a lot lower, like let's do a third of the firing interval, which means he'll fire much faster. If I only change that and we switch back to the game, if all goes to plan, and I hit play, he should actually be shooting. The bullets will go at the same speed, but he'll be shooting more of them more quickly.
Oh, it's gonna be like a line then. Oh. Oh wow. Oh god, that's so good. Oh jeez.
Bam, 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 bam.
Oh man.
And then the other thing we could do too is like if I switch back to the code, just to kind of show you our sort of like options here. I could also slow it way down, like maybe every half a second he shoots, but we want the speed of the gun or speed of the bolt. Where did I put it? I actually, coding tip for anybody out there. What I should do is I should have another float here, probably called something like rate or no, bolt speed. And then here I would specify how fast I want that bolt to fly. That way I don't have to go digging around in the code right now like I do in order to figure out where that is. Firing interval timer. Oh, I know why it's not here. It's because it's in the laser bolt. So this piece of code is the code that is needed just for the laser bolt itself. So every single time that one of those laser bolts gets shot, this is the code that's making it behave the way it's supposed to, like fly through the air, emit from the gun that's shooting it, and target the player, and so on and so forth. So in here, aha, there it is. I outsmarted myself.
Nah.
There's the bolt speed. So if I change this up to something real crazy, like let's do 15, 5 times the speed. Now when we go back into Unity, the drone's going to shoot slower, so slower intervals, but the bolt itself will go really fast.
What?
Actually, he's still. Did I? Oh, I didn't save. Hang on a second.
Oh, Coley Butt says, "I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna go to sleep early. Y'all kick Rando's ass in trivia. I'll be lurking. All right,
Yeah.
have a good night, Coley Butt. Rest well. Rest well. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here, Colibet.
yeah. Take care.
Uh, so now you can see he's shooting slower, but each bolt is like almost instantaneously arriving at the player,
Yeah,
hitting the player.
I don't like that.
Yeah, because you can't dodge it.
Yeah.
So I I haven't balanced it out, but I tried to play with it a little bit to at least get it to the point where I was like, oh, this feels okay. This feels fair.
Yeah, what you
I'm
had
gonna
before
go.
was really good. It felt
Okay.
like really nice.
Yeah, so I just switched it back. So now we're back to what it was before, which feels
That
like okay, yeah, cool.
yeah, that's cool.
And yeah, so and you can imagine, and I think if actually I should be able to do this right here. If I just duplicate this guy and
Oh
then give
god.
him
Yes.
buddies.
Yes.
Now
Oh jeez.
so
Oh
yeah, my hope
man.
is that for these spider drones, because they don't move, I want to give them a lot of firepower.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to do too is like, they will do a thing where when you come within range, their head will spin around and lock onto you, and then they start shooting.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, I'm very confident that I know how to do that. I just need to work it in. I just haven't had time yet.
This is so
But
cool.
yeah, isn't that rad? And kind of like get
Oh
up here and you can
man.
see these
Pew, pew, pew,
guys
pew, 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 pew,
kicking
pew,
that
pew.
player's ass.
Yeah, oh gosh. And when it's destroyed, does it stop shooting?
Yes.
Oh
So if
wow.
I go in here and I shoot these guys, blam, he's gone, and he's gone.
Oh
Whew.
wow. Oh,
Now it's quiet.
I see them disappear from the hierarchy. So that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ah, I'm glad you noticed that because that was another thing that was like a potential huge memory leak that I didn't realize is I needed I needed a way to ensure that the bolts, because you see how there's like all these laser bolt clones here?
Yeah.
I needed a way to ensure that if a bolt hits the player, like if I just stay here, all of those bolts hit the player, and then when they hit it, they die, like they just get destroyed, and
Right.
so they're not in the game anymore.
Right.
But I hadn't thought about like, well, wait a minute, what if I dodge them? Like all those that I'm dodging, they're just flying forever
Yeah. Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So that could be this like huge memory leak. So what I had to do is go in and program a little tiny little piece of code, which I could actually show you, which just keeps track of like right here, this thing, this lifetime, where I basically say like, hey, after 1.5 seconds, if you are still alive, just kill yourself.
Oh.
Because if you've been
God.
flying in space for a second and a half, like
Yeah.
that, obviously you haven't hit the player and you're not going to. We
Right.
don't need you taking up memory and processing power with continuing to update your position.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Um,
That's cool. That's smart.
so yeah, little tricky things like that where you like don't when you're making the thing, you might not think about it, and then
Yeah.
later on, you realize like, oh, geez, why is the performance taking such a huge hit?
Yeah.
Oh, look at all this stuff in my hierarchy. It spawned in all these laser bolts that are just flying out into infinity.
Yeah. That's smart. Hey, Riley Star. Good to have you in the chat. Yeah.
Riley,
Welcome.
welcome.
Welcome. Welcome. Yeah. Uh, but this
Uh,
is looking great, dude. I'm like so happy that you put this post processing little glow that makes a huge difference. Sorry,
yeah, right.
I'm like a kid in the candy store. I
Well,
gravitate.
you are the artist here, so the visuals should be,
Yeah.
a particular note for you.
Oh god, that looks so cool. Pew, 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 pew,
Yeah,
pew,
and
pew.
considering like how good those look and how like bad the players' lasers look now, I'm going to go back in and rejigger the players' lasers away from the existing particle system and
R-
use this new thing that I've made because I think it's better.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
the other
yeah.
thing that's cool about it too is for scoring purposes, there was a period of time where I was like, I'm not going to be able to keep track of how many hits the player has scored because I don't know how to tell when like an individual bolt has hit. But with this system, I can absolutely keep track of every individual shot and when a player like hits something.
Right.
So even if a player is like playing to get a high score and they hit an enemy a couple of times but don't kill it, they can still get points for that,
Mm.
which at like really high level play or even in like basically all of the arcade rail shooters that we've been looking at for reference, they all do the same thing. They all keep track of hits uh, in order to give you some credit, even if you don't get a full kill.
Right.
So, yep, gonna work on that. And yeah,
Man, the spider bots are
um,
vicious. God, I love that.
yeah, and I want them to be. I want to create a sort of like different reaction for the player depending on the enemy. So that way when you see spider bots, you go like, ah, geez, I gotta kill these things quick.
Right.
Uh, and put them in positions where they're like they can kind of overwhelm you because maybe you'll come through come around a corner and there's an asteroid with like four of these little things on it, and then
Y-
suddenly you're just under a hailstorm of fire.
Right. Oh
But
god.
maybe if it's like one of the leapfrog drones, you're like, these guys aren't too bad. Oh, and I'm going to use the same shooting mechanic for them. They're not going to be nearly as deadly as this. They're going to shoot at a much slower rate. Um, but now that I've got this figured out, I can add this to the other drones that up to this point have not been firing at the player. But now we can.
That's freaking awesome. Congratulations, Michael. This looks really, really good, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, I was like very proud of this. I was like, oh man, this spider drone is looking
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, all right, let's do a quick check-in with my oh, actually that's not showing. Okay. There we go. Now it is, right? Okay, so we talked about the grid system, the drone attack behaviors. We looked at the evasive guy, the multiple leapfrogs, the missile drone, the laser beam drone, the spider drone. I talked about refactoring. Chris's imports. So I imported the 815 drones. And again, I just want to say, Chris, really good job with that last export because, man, that thing was so clean to import into Unity.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yay.
it was fantastic. And like really clear to read too, which I've got it up here under, yeah, this is your character's import right here. This was fantastic with the like the FBX folder, the
Mhm.
prefab folder, and the texture folder. Like
Yeah.
having it all organized that way was awesome.
Okay, great.
And then I added all those guys into the workshop. So this is the same. Sure, I'll save that. This is the same scene as before.
Oh,
I just added in
look
the
at that
new bots.
glow. That is
Hell
awesome.
yeah.
Wait. What happened to the glow of the why is the glow different for the bots and for the for the boss?
I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Why is it different? But we'll figure that out. But yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, I think it looks great. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. That's the boss prefab.
Yeah. Hmm.
We can tinker with it. But yeah, because yeah, I think this glow looks spot on. Like
Ye-
this one, and maybe that's because we were like talking about making it like a little bit darker, and so we added more stuff around it.
Oh, I think
But I think it's.
I think I
Oh, go
know
ahead.
why. I think I know why.
Okay.
If you go into the emissions material in for the bot or for the boss
For
spot,
the boss.
yeah. If you go into his shader, yeah, emission shader.
This one.
No, the
Oh, well.
yeah,
Okay, so this
yeah,
guy
yeah, yeah.
here.
Uh-huh. Click on that. Yeah, click on the red thing.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, 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 no. Wait, hold on. Yeah, yeah. Click on the red thing. The HDR with the little. Yeah, click on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Can you see
Oh,
this?
I
Just
can't
like.
see it. I can't see it. Go ahead.
Oh.
Feel free
Oh,
to. No, no,
jeez.
no. Don't worry about it. Just feel free to move around the color palette to see if you can make it the same as the. Oh, okay. Oh, you kind of got it. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh,
There you
I
go.
see what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
Sure, hang on. So let me undo that.
You,
Let me look at this guy and see what his is, and I'll just copy it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
He's got here. All right, so he's 8, 100, 100, 0.
Sorry guys, you can't you got currently Michael's changing the color palette. Apparently when he brings it up, we can't see it. I can't see it either. So the only person that is looking at it is Michael. So right now he's making the changes. And yeah, the color is the same now. Sweet. Sweet.
There you go.
Sweet.
Rock
Awesome.
on.
Perfect.
Oh, yep, go ahead.
No, 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 you go.
I was also going to say for the ship, I think it's looking pretty good. Like in turn, because I know you were a little bit concerned about like, it might not be light enough. We might need to push it even further. I played around with it a little bit. Didn't I make some colors in here that I can show you some of the materials? Um,
Terratan says it's because it's a pop out and he's sharing the program window and not the screen. Oh. Are you sharing the screen or
mm,
the program window?
the program.
There you go.
Yep,
That's
that makes sense.
yep. Thank you. Thank you, Tara.
There you go. Uh, well, crap. I had created some other colors, but now I don't know where they are, and I'm not going to spend time trying to figure it out. But anyway,
Mm.
well, I guess what we could do is we could just do this, right? We could just like, ooh, look,
Yeah,
there we go. We got all these different colors here.
it reads. So that's what my main concern is.
Yeah, and this is the ship that we were using in the both the attack lab. So yeah, I'll go ahead and save that. Here, I imported the new ship, so this is what it looks like, in daytime. Um, really harsh lighting, but
Uh-huh.
obviously it's super clear, reads really well.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then in the whoa, computer was freaking out for a second there. And then in the construct, same thing here. It's the same uh, new model and a little bit dark, kind of like matches the space a bit, but I mean, still pretty clear to see like where I am.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I don't know. For now I think it's okay. We may get to a point later where we feel like
Mm-hmm.
maybe we need to do a little bit more with it.
Sure.
But for now, I think it looks pretty good.
Nice. Nice, nice, nice. That looks cool. And obviously currently I'm not looking at the full correct resolution. It's because we are seeing this through Discord.
Totally.
It's kind of fuzzy. So I'm very curious what it's going to look like in the final outcome.
Me too.
Yeah.
Hopefully, really badass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, it's got the glowing thingy too at the bottom. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so cool. Wow. Yeah.
very nice. Okie dokie. Let's check in again. Hopefully, because we're going a little while here. Hopefully, we're almost done. All right, so we got the drones updated, the drone on rail and the play rig, that's the thing that I showed you, that like yellow rail, right? The health system I added, and the projectiles, which we talked about. the missiles, the laser bolts, and then the guns is a thing. It is some game objects and script that I wrote that basically allows. You remember how the missile drone had that problem where the missile was just firing out of the eyeball? Um,
Oh,
this
right.
guns thing basically allows what we saw with the spider drone, where they could actually fire
The gun itself.
out of the gun tip.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's that. That concludes my update for this week.
Wow, it looks great, man. Awesome work, dude. It's
Thank you.
really, really coming together. And just the fact that you showed the lasers shooting at us, that is huge, man. As well as the post processing. Oh my gosh, that looks amazing, dude.
Yeah. So I'm gonna keep working on this stuff. There's a couple more things that I'm gonna do, a lot of which I'd kind of like peppered throughout the update here. We're talking about like, fixing the thing with the missile drone, adding a couple of more bot behaviors. Probably not too many more, especially because at this point, even if there's some that I haven't gotten to, if they take more than I don't know, like a day or two to get the rest of them in there, I'm probably just going to abandon them until we get to a point where it's like, okay, you can go back in and add a couple more drone behaviors
Yeah.
because now we have time. Right now, we don't have time.
Right, right, right.
Um, but I feel like I've gotten enough of this sort of like enough variety with the drone types that I think we can build out the game that we're looking to make.
Yeah. Very cool. Good job.
So,
Good
yep.
job again, man. This looks
Thank you.
great.
Yeah, that's it. Stay tuned for next time. I will have plenty more to show, I hope.
Yeah, and like I said, like in any movie, the visuals is like 50%, and it's the audio is the other 50% that makes it an
Exactly.
amazing experience. Because right now we don't hear anything, but once we get the audio feedback, it's gonna be even cooler.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Um, well, that's that.
Yeah. Good job, Michael.
So, we've already been going for about an hour and a half. Would you all mind if I did the quick little get presentation and then we do tavern trivia?
Sure. Sounds good.
Okay. So let's switch to here and we'll do this. Okay. So the reason I wanted to do this is because I think Git can actually be really helpful. I want to do like a little public service announcement about like what the heck Git is because if you're like me, you probably had heard of like GitHub and you'd maybe even been to that website before and like, ooh, I don't know, this looks kind of like a place for coders or something. I don't really know what's going on here, and didn't really know what Git was. Uh, Now that I'm going into software development and learning all about it, I'm learning all about Git and realizing like, oh man, this thing's actually really cool and could be really useful for anybody who does any kind of work on a computer, not just like computer programmers. But it's kind of scary because it's like, I don't know what the heck it even is. So what I wanted to do was both for my own understanding was create like a little visual explanation for people who have no computer programming background who basically if you've used a computer before and you've worked with files, then hopefully with this presentation I can explain to you what Git is in a way that you'll understand. um, so that's what we've got here.
Nice.
So basically, if you think about the way that you work with files on a computer, you create a file, and so you make the file, you do some edits to that file, and then you end up with some content inside that file, right? So maybe it's a text file, you're writing a document, or it's a Photoshop file, you're drawing a painting, whatever it is. So this is the way that you like interact with that file. And then at some point you're going to save it, right? So you say like, all right, checkpoint, I'm done for the day. I'm going to hit save here. The computer does like a little snapshot, remembers like, okay, locked in. We've got your thing saved. And if you still have the file open, you can kind of do some control Z's or go back and see some things. But if you save and close, whatever you did before, that's gone. The next time you open up that file, it remembers exactly where you were, but any history is sort of lost. And then, so from there, you can kind of show up the next day, work on the file some more, make some additional changes. And maybe at this point, you're like, some of those changes I made, I don't really like. I'm going to back up and make some additional changes. But then you get to a point where you're like, okay, or then do even more changes. But you get to a point where you decide, like, okay, that looks good. I'm going to save again. And the same sort of thing applies. Once you hit that save button, you kind of are locked in. If you close the file, you lose all that undo history.
Yeah.
Um, and Git basically allows you to do the same sort of thing with folders instead of files, and it keeps the history. So with Git, you've got a folder, and inside that folder, you make changes just like you would make changes to a file, but in this case, you're actually you're adding a new file to that folder and you're making changes to that file, and then that file, once you're happy with it, then you can save and say like, okay, great. And what Git does is it basically says like, okay, so you worked on this folder, you worked in this folder, and you added these different files and you did different stuff to it. So now I'm kind of like tracking these things. Then you can say like, okay, snapshot. I want you to save that spot. In Git, it's called making a commit. Or if you want to save to GitHub, which is like the cloud-based thing, then it's called a push. But basically, it's just like taking a little snapshot and saying like, hey, the condition that the folder is in right now, I want you to remember that. And so Git says, yep, got it, no problem. Then you can continue your work, come back the next day, go back into that folder, make some edits to the documents that you're working on in there. Maybe one of those files you're like, hey, you know what, I don't need this anymore, I'm going to delete this. And so you end up with a folder that's different than it was before. So you made some changes and you deleted a file. Same thing with Git. You say, hey, another snapshot, let's do a commit. And Git says, okay, great, I'm saving your place. I know exactly the state of the folder right now at this point in time. Have a nice day. And then you come back the next day and realize like, oh, crap, that file that I deleted from that folder, I actually needed that. I thought that I didn't, but now the client is saying like, hey, actually, we really need that. Well, if you're not using Git, you could go digging around in the recycle bin, and sometimes you're lucky enough that the thing that you needed is in there. But in some cases, if instead of deleting the file, you just saved over it, well, it's gone. Like you
Mm.
can't get any of that back.
Mhm.
That's where Git comes to the rescue, because Git can allow you to do like a Control Z for a folder. So you can say, hey, I want to actually go back to a previous state. So what it can do then is go like, okay, well, I've got this save state for you, and I've got this save state for you. I'm assuming you want to go back to this one because this second save state is the current one. So you can say like, yeah, I want to go back to this one, restore everything as it was on that day, brings it all back.
Nice.
The cool thing is you can actually specify, you can go like dig into the weeds and say like, actually, I want to keep these two files, but I want to bring back this one that got deleted. Give me the one that I had from that previous commit, and it can like, okay, yeah, sure, I can recover that for you. And then you go, okay, whew, close call. I recovered the work that I thought I had lost. Then I can continue about my life, continue moving on and adjusting making edits to additional files in that folder, and then you can save and commit. And then at some point, like, whether you're working with a file or you're working with a folder, you can say like, okay, I'm just going to delete it. I don't need it anymore. And then it's gone. So that's kind of like the super high level version of what Git is. It's basically just like working with a file where you can save things, except you do it at the folder level instead of the file level.
Mm.
And you don't lose any of your history. Every time you do the Control S version in Git, it remembers where you were. Before I do the like final slide wrap up, any questions, or is that helpful? Confusing?
It makes sense to me. But I'm always just curious as to how, like, it saves. I get it. It saves iterations, but does that take extra space on your computer hardware, like when it saves extra versions of itself every time you push, uh, not onto the cloud, but let's just or I guess the question is this solely onto the cloud, or can Git just be on your computer as well?
So two questions there. One, is it like saving duplicate copies of the folder or the files? Like what's going on there? And then two, is it on your computer or on the cloud? The second question I'll answer first because it's easier. Um, It's both on your computer and in the cloud. You get to decide if you only want to do it on your hard drive or an external hard drive. You can do it all locally.
Uh-huh.
That's no problem. If you want to also create a backup offline, then you can do that. So what I've been doing for our rail shooter game is I've got a physical backup on my computer, and then I'm sending a copy of that to GitHub.
Hmm.
That way, if my computer blows up and catches fire, doesn't matter. We can get a new computer, and then I can download whatever was pushed to the GitHub cloud. The first question about how is it saving things? Is it like just taking up a bunch of space with all these like extra files and things? I think the answer is like kind of. I think it's definitely taking up more space than if you weren't using it at all. However, I think what it's doing is it's checking at like a granular like actual file storage level, like the actual data, and seeing like what changed, and it's only keeping track of that. So like when I'm working with like a script and I make some changes to the code, when I see it pop up in the git commit, it basically identifies like, oh, I see you deleted these 10 lines of code, you added these 3, and you changed these 4. So I think what it's doing is it's only storing for that commit those changes because
Mm.
it knows at this point in time, I don't need to copy over this whole file and make like a duplicate of it. Like, here's the old version and here's the new version. It's just saying, I've got the old version and I've got the changes, and I'm only going to keep track of those changes. So I think it's kind of optimized to like not take up a bunch of space, but depending on what you tell it to keep track of, it can, I think, take up a decent amount of space. There's this whole thing called a git ignore file, which is basically you tell git, I want you to keep track of the changes in this folder, but I want you to ignore all of these files or anything that starts with a or anything that ends with a .jpeg. Don't keep track of any of those because those are all just photos that I have on a backup somewhere else. Like, I don't need you to keep track of that too.
Right, right.
So you can tell it to like selectively ignore things, but I think there is a certain trade-off that you're making of like, this folder is going to be a little bit bigger than it would be if there was no tracking, but it's not going to be like, yeah, if you make 10 commits, this folder is going to be 10 times the size that it was before. I don't think that's the case. I think
Mm.
it's pretty smart about optimization.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Captain
Sure.
Blue says, imagine also that you write a paragraph and your buddy writes another paragraph on the same document. Git can then actually merge both these versions into one file.
Yep. Yeah, that's a whole other thing that Git allows for that I haven't gotten to yet because I'm still a beginner at all this, but Git allows groups of people, like teams of collaborators, to all work on the same project and push their changes together that can then like merge, and you can still keep track of like where things came from and you can revert things. It's really impressive. So I'm really eager to get to a point where I know enough about it to for us to be able to take advantage of some
Yeah.
of that stuff.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And I would love to utilize this for my Photoshop files cuz,
Totally.
yeah, cuz, stuff happens.
So that's a perfect segue into, I'm going to wrap up here. I've got 3 more slides. Uh, in order to take advantage of using Git, there are some things that you can, like, because now the question is like, okay, got it. I understand how Git works. How do I use it? So Git itself, you can think it's not like a company or like an app. Git is roughly equivalent to like email. When you think about email, like, it's a thing that you can do on the internet, or it's like it's a protocol. It's a sort of an idea that a technology. But if you want to use email, you still have to have like an email service, right? So you have to have like a Gmail account, or if you work for a company that provides an email for you, then you've got your @work.com or whatever company it is you work for, their email address. So you still need a service to be able to use that technology. And so with Git, there you have a couple different options. You've got GitLab, you've got GitHub, you've got Bitbucket, um, but there's also a way to just like do it directly on your computer. You can, uh, if you want to do everything locally and you're comfortable with the command line, you can just do it that way. But there are there are software, which is actually the final one here. There are applications or clients that you can use. So to kind of like in summary, with email, email is this sort of like technology that allows you to talk to people on the internet. You can send messages to each other. You have to use a specific service though that gives you an email address. But once you have that, you can either you've got a couple of different ways to access that service, right? You can go into the browser. So if you've got Firefox or Chrome or whatever, you can just type in gmail.com and voila, now you can access your Gmail email client or your Yahoo or whatever it is. But you don't have to do it in the browser. You could also use Outlook on Windows. If you're a Mac user or iOS user, you've got the built-in Mail app that you can use. So that's kind of the way these sort of three different things all kind of work together to provide you with email. Same sort of thing with Git. Whereas Git is the technology, there are companies that provide the service if you want to host things in the cloud. And then there are applications. You can use this is the symbol or the icon for the terminal, which is the command line prompt on Mac. So that's where you can just type in, computer hacker style typing things directly into the computer. There's also this thing called GitKraken and SourceTree. SourceTree is the one that I've been using for our rail shooter, which have like a graphical user interface. So they're really friendly they're very user friendly and allow you to leverage the Git technology without having to learn how to go into the command line and do all that stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
so there you go. And that's it. That's all I've got to say on
Very
Git for
cool.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's awesome. I can't wait to start using it because I know we're gonna have to use it once I start diving into Unity and start to do the level design. Because
Hmm.
I want to make sure whatever you do, I don't screw it up. And when I do need to, screw it up, meaning like update the what is it called, the models with actual we're replacing the real models, replacing the substitute white models with like the real models. That's something that I definitely want to be able to do because yeah, right now you're just to design the game level, you're just using basic blocks and shapes, and then when you figure it all out, I'll go into that file and then I'll start replacing the that primitive cubes and whatnot and swap it out with the real game assets. And then I think that's when we really have to start using Git.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're very often like I've been really thankful to have started using it because there have been times where I did something was like, ooh, geez, that broke everything, and then been able to like revert back. Whereas earlier in the project, I wasn't using Git,
Mm,
and I had like at least two or three different times where I was like, I lost like 3 days of work, man, because I was doing a thing and then tried something, didn't work, and had to redo it all.
yeah. God, that's awful.
Alrighty. Okay, so if everybody's ready, we can jump straight into Tavern Trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So give me a second here. Tavern Trivia. Oh yeah, Captain Blue Blue hasn't been back since we upgraded the trivia, so
Mm,
this is gonna be fun for you,
yeah.
I hope.
So if anyone would like to play Tavern Trivia tonight, please let us know so we could put your
Yeah.
names into the system, and then we could defeat our enemy team Brando.
The arch nemesis of the Creative Tavern, Rando.
Yeah. Captain Blue says, "I'll
All
play."
right.
Captain Blue Blue's in.
Excellent. Cat blue blue spelled like this. Cat blue blue. All
Uh,
right.
we could take.
Also we got Terratan.
Uh, I didn't hear from Terratan. Butt is
Riley.
currently sleeping. Riley, are you there? Would you like to play? Killer Cookie, would you like to play? Totoro. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. That's it so far.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
Might be.
How many? And I'll play. Obviously, if there aren't enough people. But I think so far it's just me and Captain Blue Blue going against Team Brando.
Alrighty.
Oh God! If you guys want to play, let us know.
Three P4, P5. And I don't know if I've programmed this. I don't know if I programmed it in such a way that I can even up the teams. I think it's
2 against
it might
5?
be set
2
up.
against 4?
Yeah,
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god! Captain Blue says, "I imagine Rando to be a middle-aged, balding past his prime salary man, wrinkled shirt, loose tie, and a comb over, just trying to get a drink, but for some reason takes the blame for everything." That's
Wah,
really
wah, wah. That's pretty good.
that's really damn good. Wow, not bad, not bad.
Um, all right. Well, we'll hang out for a second here, and it's funny because like tonight's theme is Pride and Prejudice, which not to be like sexist or anything, but it's one of the more girl-friendly themes. And here it's gonna be just the three of us, the three
Oh
dudes.
god. And Captain Blue says, "That said, fuck Rando. Yeah, fuck Rando.
Yeah.
Fuck him."
So while we're waiting for any last-minute stragglers here, Captain Blue, the way the new system works is I basically cleaned up some of the user interface this time, and now instead of so everybody still gets points individually as they did before. If you 5 questions, multiple choice, each question you get right, you get a point. But people who are playing, their scores contribute to Team Tavern's points. And Rando, instead of it just being Rando, he's also got a league of random minions who are also guessing random answers, and their points sum up. And whichever team, Team Tavern or Team Rando, has the most points at the end of the game, they're the winners. So we have both like team points and team winners, and then also individual highest scoring players. So looks like it's gonna be a
Oh god.
sparse night for Team Tavern. I hope you guys are bringing your A game because
All
I think it's time to get started.
all right, here we go. Let's do this.
Alrighty, so all of these questions are based off of the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. There have been a lot, like different movies and TV shows and all this stuff, but everything here is based off of the 2005 one. So here we go.
Nice.
Question number 1. Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, who are the parents in the Pride and Prejudice story, they want their daughters to marry well. What wealthy bachelor did the actress who played Mary in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, what wealthy bachelor did the actress who played Mary go on to wed in real life? Was it A, Elon Musk, B, Mark Cuban, C, Jeff Bezos, or D, Dwayne Johnson? So basically, so in the movie, you've got all these girls who are all sisters, and their parents are trying to make sure that they have a good life and marry them off to wealthy bachelors or, eligible bachelors who can take care of them. The actress who plays one of those sisters, she actually went on to marry a real life wealthy bachelor. Which one is it? That's the question.
Actually we have Riley. Riley's playing.
Oh, great. Well, let
Perfect.
me back up since we haven't gotten to any Riley Star.
Oh god.
Right?
Oh,
Spelled like that? Did I get it right? Yeah. Awesome. Glad you're here, Riley. Oh, and so because the questions are generated randomly, you've got some time to think about that one because now it's a different question. Because I added Riley, I needed to exit the game, add Riley, and then now it randomized to a new question,
got
if
it.
that makes sense.
Sure.
So we will get back to that question, but you've got a little bit of time to think about it.
Okay.
All right, so new question. Rosamund Pike, who plays Jane Bennet in the 2005 adaptation, she has starred in several film adaptations of books. Which of the following is not one of them? So in other words, Rosamund Pike has been in film adaptations of everything except one of these. Is it A, Wheel of Time, B, Gone Girl, C, Jack Reacher, or D, Girl on the Train? Rosamund Pike is in all of these except one. Which one?
I have no idea who Rosamund Pike is.
Um, what might she have been in that you would know? She's if you saw her face, once we're done with this question, look her up. I
Okay.
think you'd recognize her face.
All right.
But what say ye?
Uh. Uh. I'm gonna go with C because Jack Reacher. I think it's like a more like violent.
Okay.
I don't
So
know.
Chris
I've,
says Jack Reacher, it's just number C. I should add A, B, and C here so that way it's a little more visually obvious. Um, so Riley says, LOL, I think she played in Wheel of Time and Gone Girl, but not sure of the last two. And Captain Blue Blue says, I don't think Wheel of Time got a movie, but I'm probably wrong. Okay, so good point. Technicality that I made a mistake here. The Wheel of Time that I'm referring to is the Amazon Prime series. So yes, it's not a movie. I should have been clear about that.
Riley Stars Wheel of Time was a series. There you go.
Right, not a movie, but a visual motion image adaptation
Yeah.
of a book.
Yeah.
All right, Captain Blue Blue and Riley, what do you think? Which one of these movies was Rosamund Pike not in?
Uh,
Captain Blue Blue says D,
yeah.
and Riley says C. So Riley's going with Chris's answer. Captain
Yeah.
Blue Blue says D,
Oh God,
and the answer
why did you go
is,
with my answer? I might be wrong.
and it
Oh
was so Captain
no!
Blue Blue got it right. It was
Oh,
Girl on the
all
Train.
right, nice.
Yeah, Rosamund Pike is actually in all of these things.
Girl on the Train. I have no idea what. I haven't seen any of these movies. Wow.
I would
Okay.
definitely recommend Gone Girl and Jack Reacher. I haven't seen the other two, but both these movies are really good.
Yeah.
All right, Captain Blue Blue holding down the fort as Team Rando is tied with Team Tavern for 1-1.
Oh God. Good job.
All right, next
Good
question.
job, Cap.
Okay, now we're back to the question that we had before. So, just to recap, Mr. and Mrs. Bennett want their daughters to marry well. What wealthy bachelor did the actress who played Mary go on to wed in real life? Was it Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Jeff Bezos, or Dwayne Johnson? So the actress who played Mary actually married one of these guys in real life.
I don't think it's C because Jeff
Okay.
Bezos just got divorced with some girl who is not a movie star.
Okay. Sound reasoning.
Uh,
Captain Blue Blue and Riley Star both say A, and not even any question marks.
oh,
That's a lot of confidence there.
well,
Wow.
well, shit. I'm just gonna copy their answer then.
Okay.
There you go.
And the answer is ding, ding,
Oh,
ding.
nice.
Good job, guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. You guys knew that one. So yeah, the actress who played Mary is Tallulah Riley. She was really young in this. She was, I don't know, like 15 or something. But yeah, she went on to marry Elon Musk, and hilariously, she's married him multiple times because they got married in like 2010, and then like 3 years later they got divorced, and then like a year later they got married again, and then like 2 years later they got divorced again.
What?
Yeah,
Jeez.
I don't know. They couldn't decide if they wanted to be together forever or not at all.
Oh man.
Oh man, look at Team Rando completely whiffed that one.
Uh,
They got real confident about Jeff Bezos here, but
yeah.
couldn't pull it off.
I didn't think it was Jeff Bezos. Riley Star says this isn't too much about Austin, but the people who were in Austin related stuff. LOL.
Right. Yeah. You might have missed this, Riley. Earlier, I said that this is based almost exclusively on the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. So it's that movie and then the people who were involved with that movie.
Yeah. And Captain Blue says Mary is one of the youngest daughters.
Uh,
I have no
I
idea.
think I think so. Yeah. Or she's one of the younger daughters because I think the two older daughters are Rosamund Pike and Keira Knightley, and then there are like three other daughters who are younger. And Tallulah Riley, might have been the youngest one, or Tallulah Riley playing Mary. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Riley says Kitty is the youngest. Mary is the middle.
There you go, man. Riley's ready for this.
Yeah.
She knows this story inside and out.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Next question.
Question number 3. The director, Joe Wright, and Keira Knightley like working together. Only one of the following movies was not one they worked on together. Which is it? A, Pride and Prejudice. That's a freebie. B, Atonement. C, Anna Karenina. Or D, The Duchess. So the director and Keira Knightley worked on all of these together except one of them. Which one?
Mm. O'Reilly says, I like the BBC adaptation from a long time ago. Captain Blue says BBC adaptation is the best.
Yeah, that one score. So like in the research that I was doing for this, there was a sort of like an assessment of all the adaptations for Pride and Prejudice, and the two highest scoring ones were the 2005 movie and then that BBC adaptation, which I think was from 1995, something like that. Those are the only two that scored like out of 10. They were like in the 9 or something. Everything else was like 6 and below.
Nice.
So there've been a lot of bad adaptations of Pride and Prejudice, apparently.
Captain Blue says, I'm thinking B because the other three sounds like costume movies.
Okay, Captain Blue says B.
Riley says D.
Riley says D. Okay.
I'm gonna go with C just so that we could just cause
Hedge our bets.
well, yeah, one of us is going to be right. God.
Somebody's bound to get it right.
Yeah.
Unless I tricked you and actually
Oh my
they
God.
didn't work together on Pride and Prejudice. But the answer is ding ding ding, Riley.
Riley,
nice
nice job.
That's the only one. So and I tried to be tricky with this one because Keira Knightley is in The Duchess, but it was a different director. And then yeah, these other ones, both Keira Knightley's in all of these, and they're all directed by Joe Wright. Oh man, Team Rando whiffing it again.
Yeah.
In an earlier test that I did, they did really well. They got like 14 points or something. So I don't know.
Yeah.
When it counts, they're asleep.
Maybe you should stop testing because that takes all the juice out of their.
Oh yeah, there you go. They get tired.
Yeah, they get tired.
Oh man. All right, 4th question. Only 2 more. Keira Knightley was nominated for Best Actress at the Academy Awards for her role in the 2005 adaptation of Pride and Prejudice. How old was she at the time? A, 16, B, 18, C, 20, or D, 22?
I'm gonna go with B.
Chris says B. Okay.
Because that was Pride and Prejudice. Oh, I guess I don't know if I should ask you. Well, screw it. Was Pride and Prejudice filmed before or after Pirates of the Caribbean?
Well, I mean, I've given the date here, so I'll just tell you, because if you already know the date is for Pirates of the Caribbean, this was filmed, well, I don't know if it was filmed before or after, but it definitely released after Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay, so B. Yeah, let's go with B. Captain Blue says Anna Karenina is good but sad. I recommend it.
Ooh,
nice.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Oh, is Riley guessing D for this one?
No. She says,
I think C.
I think C. Teen sounds too young since she had already been in a film for a while.
Okay. So Riley says C.
Captain Blue says C too.
Also going C because I think she was born in 85. Oh wow, I don't know what year she was born.
Oh,
but okay.
She's younger than me. Oh, interesting.
Answers are in, and the correct answer is.
Oh
ding, ding, ding.
Man!
It was C. She was C.
Good job, guys.
Yeah, great job. And fun fact about this, because of that, her nomination at that age made her the 3rd youngest actress of all time to have been nominated for an Academy Award.
Wow.
Yeah. All right, I think this is our final question. Team Rando's really gonna have to pull a Hail Mary here to stop the unstoppable duo of Captain Blue Blue and Riley Star.
Hey, what about me, man? What the hell?
You're definitely the B string player
yeah,
tonight.
Yeah. Sorry. You guys carry.
Carry Carry Chris to the finish line,
Carry
folks.
me, please.
All right, final question for all the marbles. The 2005 adaptation, again, Pride and Prejudice, is unique in that it is set in a different year than the book and most other adaptations. In what year does it take place? Is it A, 1656, B, 1797, C, 1813, or D, 1921? So the book
Uh,
takes place in a specific year, and most of the adaptations take place in that year, but this one is different. And there's a special reason why they picked that year, which I'll reveal after.
uh,
Any guesses, Chris?
no, not one bit. It can't
This
be
one's kind of hard.
it can't be 16 or 17. It has to be 18 or 19.
Okay. Why do you think that?
I don't know, man. It's 16, 17 just seems way too old. It's way too in the
Well,
past. I don't know.
Riley says B, maybe. Captain
Really?
Blue says 1600s is too early. So Captain Blue agrees with you, at least there.
Oh god, because Austin time frame is normally 18 to 19. So if it's different
Riley
than
says, because
early,
Austin's time frame is normally in the 1800s to 1900s, so if it's different, then earlier is key. Man, you really know your stuff here.
all right, I'm gonna copy Riley's answer. Whatever she says,
Okay,
I'm gonna take it.
Chris copying Riley.
All right.
By the way, are we pronouncing that right, Riley? Is it Riley or is it really? Well, I just assumed it was Riley.
Yeah, I think it's Riley.
Captain Boo says, and they are wearing red coats in the military, so not 1900s. Okay.
Man, you guys are
What-
really good with history. I don't. My history is crap.
Yeah, I'm pretty bad with. Oh, so it's not Riley. It is really like Hilly.
Oh,
Really
it's
Star.
really. Oh.
Like Frilly or Hilly or Silly.
Or
Okay, Captain Blue says, I'm going C just because I think it is B based on the fashion of the time, but the question says otherwise. All right, so Captain Blue says C, but might have been B, but he's going to go with C. All right, the answers are locked in. Time to reveal the final answer. And it is ding, ding, ding. It was 1797. Good job, really.
ah, yay! Copycat.
So, yeah, that was a smart play there, Chris.
Yeah.
To copy really, who's really star completely killing this set. So what's interesting about that date is the actual. So the novel was released in 1813, and it takes place either 1812 or 1813. But they chose 1797 for this film adaptation because that's when the first draft of the novel was written by Jane Austen, was in 1797. So it's quite a few years earlier, actually. It was like 15, 16 years earlier.
Wow.
So that's what's a little bit different. All the other ones take place at the same time as the book, which is 1813. So good job, everybody. Man, and that's it. Team Tavern wins, killing it. 9 points to Team Rando's 5 points.
Yay!
With Riley, or really Star, our champion with 4 points. Captain Blue right behind, and Chris, that's respectable.
Yeah. I without those 2 points, we would have still won, I guess.
You would have still won, yeah. And Rando says, no, beaten by the Creative Tavern again, but fear not, my random minions and I will return. Just you wait.
I'll be back, Gadget.
Rando will be back next week for more Tavern Trivia. Oh, speaking of which, if you guys have any suggestions for themes that you'd like to see, go ahead and share those in the chat. Now would be the time. And
Uh,
otherwise, thanks for playing.
let's do John Claude Van Damme.
Okay.
John Claude Van Damme.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. Do you guys know John Claude Van Damme movies?
I know a couple. Well, I'm not going to say because maybe I'll save them for
Yeah.
the trivia.
Yeah.
But I remember there was at least one of them that I really wanted to see, and I was a little kid at the time, and my grandmother's sister, so that makes her like my great
Great
aunt,
aunt, great aunt. Yeah,
something like that,
yeah.
right?
Uh huh.
Uh, she, she knew I wanted to see this movie, and so she rented it for me. And I think I don't know, I was like 8 or 10 or something,
Nice.
and she didn't realize that there were boobies in it. There was like nudity, and so when that happened, she like jumped off of the couch to like turn the movie off
Uh
and
huh.
like okay, that's it. We're not watching any more of this.
Yeah.
I was like, oh
Oh man.
yeah,
Wait, the one with the boobies
yeah. There's a Jean Claude Van Damme of one of his most famous ones actually. It has some nudity in it.
was it Bloodsport? I don't remember seeing. I don't remember seeing boobies in Blood.
I've seen that one. I don't. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but that's not the one I'm thinking of.
Okay, all right. Lionheart is really good. That one's really good.
It was. I don't think it's one of his better movies, but it was like when he was. We're doing a little pre-trivia here. Let's see if we can get this.
Uh,
It was when he was kind of like peaking, like when he was really well known and kind of getting um, high-profile work that was getting like marketed and advertised quite a bit.
yeah.
This movie came out, and so it was like, oh, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. But it wasn't. It wasn't very good, I don't think. But it had a really interesting high concept premise that was kind of sci-fi and a little futuristic.
Time Cop.
Yes,
Ah, there you
nailed
go.
it. Good job.
Ah, yeah. Time Cop.
Man, you're gonna dominate next
Yes,
week.
yes. John Claude Van. But you guys also pick too. You guys let me know, let us know, or let Michael know what genre you guys want. Uh,
Let's see.
Captain Blue says I know some, I know a few. Oh, nice. Captain Blue says I know the Penguin hockey team one. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The one where there's like a oh shit, I forgot what's it called. He told his kid to like wait at there's like a bomb scare, and then he told his kid to wait, just sit there, and then
Oh,
so he could
geez.
find, or he said, "I'm gonna go do something, don't move." And then all of a sudden, there's like a bomb scare, and then everyone ran out, and then his kid just kind of just sat there and didn't move because his dad
He
told
told
him.
me not to move.
Yeah, he told him not to move, and I think maybe that's the one. I'm not sure, Captain Blue, if you're talking about that one. And really star says, ah ha ha, Cap. I don't know what that means, but yeah, let us know what you guys want to do. She says, all I recall is he was a big action star back in the day, but I don't think I watched too many movie. Yeah, Jean Claude Van Damme was big, very very big in the like late 80s and 90s, right? And then all of a sudden he kind of just disappeared, and yeah.
Yeah, there was like a period of time where there were a couple of like really high profile like martial arts stars, right? Like
Yeah,
Steven Seagal was in that
right,
same
right.
camp, and then yeah, all of those guys kind of like disappeared.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Didn't,
yeah.
the only one who really kind of like survived through into the 2000s was Jackie Chan.
Mm,
But even he eventually,
just
I think he's still acting now, but he's really not doing very much,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is too bad because man, Jackie Chan was cool.
Yeah, he was awesome, man. All his movies, oh, so good. Captain
Yeah.
says he was in Street Fighter movie. That's right, he was Guile, Commander Guile in Street Fighter. I
Yeah.
totally forgot about that. Really says apparently he was in Kung Fu Panda 3. Oh, oh yeah,
Oh
he was
yeah.
he was that tiger, not tiger.
N- no.
No, no. What was he?
He was
That
he's one of the
wasn't he?
good guys.
He was a good guy. I thought he was a leopard. He was.
Yeah, you're thinking of the snow leopard.
Yeah.
That's somebody
Oh,
else.
okay.
No,
All right.
that the guy who plays a snow leopard, I think, was also one of the stars in Deadwood, which I've never seen. But Jean-Claude Van Damme was
She.
'cause you've got the mantis, you've got
Don't
the tigress was Angelina Jolie.
don't look at the chat. Because really sorry. Don't look at it.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Real.
I already
Oh,
saw.
you already saw it.
Yes,
All right.
now I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the crocodile from the second one.
Yeah. 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 Nice.
Yeah, Master Croc.
Yeah.
Man, and the second Kung Fu Panda is really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like both the first and the second Kung Fu Pandas are amazing movies.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and it's
remember.
cool that they have like actual martial artists in there. Jackie Chan's in it too.
Yeah, he's Monkey. And yeah, I
That's right.
I remember like I remember when I teared up when Master Oogway, he like disappeared into the
Hmm.
thin air.
Ascended.
Yeah, and I don't tear up in movies often, but that moment, it was so like emotional and moving to me.
Oh
I
yeah.
just like teared up a little bit. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so good." And it's partly because of the music. Again, like it was the music that really hit my soul.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
Totally.
if there wasn't any music, it was just dead silent. And he just did his thing. I would be like, "Oh, okay." But because there was music behind it, it's like, "Oh my gosh, it is so good." Um,
Yeah.
and Captain Blue says, "Want to know what Steven Seagal is doing currently?"
Uh,
No.
it's probably. I don't know. I know he's like let himself go physically, like he's really overweight
Yeah,
and not in shape anymore and not making movies.
yeah. I mean, he isn't. Doesn't he do? Isn't he doing something in Russia right now?
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
Last
know.
time I saw him, he was in Russia doing something. I don't remember. Really Star says it was fun. I haven't seen the third Kung Fu Panda, I think. Animated movies can make me cry. Coco, OMG, yeah. I still haven't seen
Hell
Coco.
yeah.
I haven't seen Coco yet. Is it good?
Whoa.
Yeah, everyone
It's
loves it.
really good.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice,
Coco's amazing.
nice.
Yeah, and I second Really Star's comment there. Animated movies make me cry too. Like
Yeah.
that, man. Some really good ones. Like Encanto recently
Mm.
really knocked me out. Like knocked my socks off. That movie, especially at the end, there's this song that plays called Dos Oruguitos, which means two butterflies. Oh my, wow. Speaking of like what you're talking about, Chris, with like music taking you to a whole other level in while you're watching a scene, that's what that does. Like, and there's a really cool music video you could watch. Like, you just go onto YouTube and type in Dos Oruguitos or Two Butterflies from Encanto, whatever, and you can watch this music video,
Yeah.
and it's, man, even the music video is really beautiful and will probably make you cry if you're a touchy, sensitive, sentimental type.
Oh God.
But if you watch
Yeah.
the whole movie, when that moment happens, like, man, is it just heart wrenching in this touching, beautiful way. It's just so good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit scared of watching those movies is because I'm always afraid like I'm gonna start crying. I mean just Up, you know, beginning, the first few minutes of Up really got me. It's just like holy shit, you know, the movie hasn't even started, I'm already like
Yeah.
tearing up, you know. It's like damn it, man. Captain Blue says he is Steven Seagal, he is filming a documentary for, there you go, pro-Russian side of the Ukraine war. He
Wow.
got Russian citizenship now. See, there you go. That's
Wow.
yeah. I
Fascinating.
remember him doing something in Russia and I was just like, "What the hell?" Apparently that's what he's doing right now. So, yeah, man. Frack, dude. Um really says Encanto was good. I still need to see Z Red. Seeing Z Red.
Oh, saying Z Red.
Turning Red
Turning Red. Yeah, with
with
the
the red
girl who
panda.
turns into the red panda,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That one's really good too.
Nice.
It's not Pixar's best, but
Mm,
it's awesome.
nice, nice. Oh, is it Seeing Red? Oh, I thought it was Turning Red. Hold on, Seeing Red?
Well, maybe that's a different movie.
Uh,
Okay, actually really says
oh,
Turning
Turning
Red.
Red.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, but you've seen it already?
Yep,
Nice,
it's good.
nice, 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 nice. Yeah, I have.
Definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I think when Bad Batch, the Star Wars animated series Bad Batch, the next season comes out, then I will subscribe to Disney Plus, and then I'm gonna watch everything within a month, and then I'm gonna cancel it because I don't want to support Disney in any way. I have a grudge against Disney, so
You
yeah,
don't say.
that's just me. But you guys go and watch it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, like even grudges aside, like it just makes sense nowadays to cycle through your streaming services because there's so many. Like it just doesn't make sense to stick to a single one and just be subscribed for the whole year because they
Hmm.
cost too much and there's too many of them. So it's like,
Yeah,
well, Disney doesn't have anything right now. I've watched everything that they have. Now I'm going to switch to Netflix and get caught up on Stranger Things and all these others, whatever else is new there. And then when I'm caught up there, then I'll switch back to HBO Max or
Right.
Paramount Plus, whatever, and just kind of cycle through until we get to the point where there's some like a single service that can,
Rule them
to
all.
accumulate all of them
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then we're right back to cable, which
Exactly.
like I
Exactly.
don't want all this stuff. I just want Netflix.
Yeah. Really Star
You have
says,
to buy it all.
probably. Oh, hold on. Probably will have more impact on me, kind of like Crazy Rich Asians. See, that's one I haven't seen either. Crazy Rich Asians.
Me, yeah, neither have
Yeah,
I.
but I heard it was really
I've
good.
been Yeah, I've heard great things about it too. I've been avoiding watching that one though because I want to read the book because I've also heard people who've read the book who said it was hilarious and wonderful.
Oh,
So,
nice, nice.
but trying to find time to read is hard.
Yeah, especially like with all the stuff that we're doing. Yeah. Really says streaming services have basically gone back to being what cable TV was. There you go. There you go. That's
Yeah,
what you just said.
we're gone full circle.
Yep. Yep. But yeah, Michael, thank you so much for your amazing, the review as well as showing us what you did this past week. Amazing, amazing programming. I just gotta say I can't do what you do, and that's why you're doing it and not me. And we currently have a really tight deadline, and hopefully at the end of September or early October, you guys will be able to play a beta of or an alpha or whatever you would call it, uh, a version of our game, and so we can't wait for it to to be delivered so that you guys can play it. And yeah, until then, man, we're just gonna keep on doing what we've been doing for the past 4 months now, I would say. And so yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. Captain Blue Blue, as always, thank you for being here. Riley Star, thank you so much for being here and for carrying the team tonight. Holy cow, you and Captain Blue Blue. I did nothing. You guys carried me. I appreciate that. So yes, yes, yes. Uh yeah, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and end. I'm going to go ahead and put our social media up on our chat right here. Feel free to follow us here as well as follow myself and Michael. And you can catch me, of course, on my streaming channel, twitch.tv Lead Design Studio. And currently, I am streaming every Tuesday and Fridays at 7 p.m. PST. And we'll be looking forward to have you guys on my on the stream. It's always nice to have you guys there. And again, thank you for being here with us. And I don't have any Kickstarter going on. I'm currently working. I'm waiting on getting the tarot cards, and once I get those, I'm gonna send them out. Then I can start on the new tarot cards. Yeah. Michael, where can they find you, good sir?
So you can go to the link that Chris provided in the chat there. I've got social media and stuff where you can follow me, but honestly, I'm really not that active there, and probably will be in the future. Right now, I'm so focused on the game, though, that I'm really not doing anything other than this. I do have a book out if you like to read and you like storytelling and you're at all interested in how like major blockbusters work, including Pride and Prejudice, which I talk a lot about in the book.
Nice.
Um, you can check that out on Amazon. It's available in paperback and Kindle. And yeah, other than that, the best place to find me is right here on the Creative Tavern every Wednesday and Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we'll be hanging out with you lovely people and talking about this video game Chris and I are making. And
Yeah.
then once that's done, hopefully other creative stuff.
Yeah.
So we'd
Yeah.
love to
Yeah.
have you join us.
Yeah. And the next time we will be here is Sunday, 7 p.m. PST, and it would be my turn to share the stuff that I'm working on. I'm currently working on scene 5 right now. I'm also working on getting scene 2 assets from Blender put into Unity, and I realize that's actually a challenge. Not a challenge, but it's just gotta take. It's not a simple import. I gotta the whole naming convention and everything. So, and Riley says, okay, follow Sunday. Yes, thank you so much for the follow. And yes, we will be back. Our next stream will be Sunday, and it'll be my turn to share the stuff that we make. And also, Riley, I know you are a an artist as well, and so if you want, feel free to pop into our Discord, and we actually have a section where it says share your art. I think that's it's either share your
Can we
art
call it gallery?
or is it gallery? Sorry, I get it confused sometimes. Feel free to post your stuff there because every Sunday we also share everyone's artwork here on the stream so that you could get your stuff out into the world. I know we are currently a very humble channel, but it is a channel where we all kind of gather and share one another's artwork. So we're very very glad to have you in here, and I know you're very talented. I've been in your streams before, so yes, please share, yeah, with what you've been up to. So, and I'm gonna say thank you so much for being here, guys, and we will call it a night, but don't go anywhere for if you guys want to join in on a raid. Tonight we will be raiding. Let's see who will we will be raiding. We will be raiding Commander Biscuits tonight because he, out of everyone that's on my list right now, is doing art. So let's go ahead and raid him. And thank you so much, really, as well as Captain Blue Blue. Thank you guys so much for being here, and hope to see you guys Sunday. Okay. All right. Bye, guys. See ya.